Greetings, citizens, I guess. Welcome back to beautiful sunny Tropico, the completely Hebridean island of New Harris, and of course our glorious President Amidala McJedi, who is just having a little walk in the woods for some reason, which seems like a totally safe thing to do when you're an oppressive dictator. Just randomly go wandering around without any guards. But fortunately in Tropico that doesn't really matter. Now, it's been a bit of a gap since recording the last episode, but I vaguely recall something about I think it was more housing and building a cathedral, because I don't believe housing quality is absolutely in the dirt. Religion quality is better, but not that much better. Liberty is also really low, but we don't care about that so much. What's liberty anyway? I mean, it's just a word, right? It doesn't actually matter. So, housing is going to be the first thing. We still have, I think, a whole bunch of people living in shacks, which is why the housing satisfaction is so low. I've built some not bad quality. The country houses are quite good accommodation for what they are, but you only get 2 families in each of them, so you have to spam them out quite a lot. We do have a couple of apartment blocks, but we could maybe just do with building some more. We don't have a shortage of housing, it's just the overall quality of housing. And people don't want to travel too far, so this is why, even though we've got houses with spaces in, there are still people who will choose to live in shacks, which are just the absolute worst kind of housing in terms of quality that there is. So, what we can do is basically... there's a couple of ways we could approach this. We can start by building another apartment block, which will certainly help things out and won't be too expensive. And what we can also do is increase the quality of the housing that we have, and there's a couple of different ways we can do that. Now, the probably more expensive overall way of doing it is by basically bringing electricity to the island, and you can either do that by building a quite expensive power plant, which you also need college educated workers for. And that obviously is quite expensive just all round because you're paying college wages. Or you can go for windmills, which give a lot less in terms of power per, like, bang for your buck basically. But in terms of the amount of power you get for the windmill that you've placed down. But you do actually get a benefit from putting them higher up. And they scale a lot better than power plants do as well, so I generally prefer to use windmills overall. They're I think a bit cheaper than... Okay, the nuclear power plant's already unlocked, but yeah, that's 40,000, whereas wind turbines aren't super cheap, but yeah, let's go with that. So we'll build one of these, which will produce enough electricity to... oh, here we go. That's better than I was thinking. The best possible power output you can get is, I think, 40 megawatts per turbine. And funnily enough, unlike the claims of certain presidents of the United States, they don't actually cause cancer. Which is, it's a bit strange how that works, but never mind. It's not the first time he's said a thing that was just blatantly untrue. I'm sure there's another word what we could use there to describe such a thing, but anyway, let's try and keep this fairly non-political, I suppose. I mean, having said that, I'm recording this just after here in the UK we have gotten the news that the leadership contest for basically whoever is going to be the next leader of the Tory party and therefore the next Prime Minister has come down to either Boris Johnson or Jeremy Hunt, both of which are not particularly competent or popular. Boris Johnson, I think, is considered the worst by far, but Jeremy Hunt, nonetheless, isn't a bowl of peaches by any means either. There was another candidate who, I mean, he still wasn't stellar, but he was, out of the bunch of them, the most sensible choice, which is, I don't know, the equivalent of, like Boris Johnson is asking if you want your arm chopped off versus Jeremy Hunt being your foot chopped off, whereas Rory Stewart was, do you want a nasty series of paper cuts? If I can kind of describe it that way. But no, instead we are just going to get two of the most utterly depressing people. I mean, actually, Dominic Raab would have been fairly damn depressing as well. But apparently Tory voters... I mean, I think on the whole, the average Tory voter in the UK would not pass the Voigt-Kampf test. Let me put it that way. So, yeah, I'm feeling a little bit depressed at the moment just on that regard alone, because it makes no-deal Brexit that much more likely. And given that I'm on 3 different kinds of meds at the moment, fortunately none of them particularly vital to my continued existence as a human being. There might be some disruption to that. There are people who are relying on medication to keep them alive that must be considerably more worried on that score than I am. But I don't even know what this is gonna, like recession for sure. The continued fleeing of firms from the UK, from London in particular, to various places on the continent, I'm sure will accelerate a pace. I don't even want to speculate what this is going to do to the currency or the economy generally, but some people still seem to be convinced that it's fine and we're all going to get rainbows and unicorns, and I don't even know. It's a fun time to be in the UK, almost as fun a time as it is to be in the US, where you've been putting up with this brand of idiocy for slightly longer than we have at this point. Anyway, so that I should put that behind me, because that's not going to make for a fun video. But by God, things are depressing at the moment. So having built that has a kind of a default, not very big area where it actually can transmit electricity to, and to increase that we're going to need to build a substation. So if I build that, let's just build that there. Substations give you a much bigger buildable area, and then I can basically put this electricity to use with improving housing conditions, but also I can start to do things like I can build hospitals and other such non-important things. Well, not important if you're Jeremy Hunt. So I can't, it's really on my mind at the moment. It really is. But, who needs hospitals and doctors and nurses and things? Because that's another thing that's going to get completely fucked once we have Brexit, is... all those EU nationals that currently work for the NHS, I don't even know. These people have their heads so far up their asses that it's just amazing they even know what sunshine is. That's not actually a saying, but I don't even... I don't know what I'm going for there. I'm just flabbergasted and appalled and etc, etc, etc. All the usual things. We have, that looks like a massive backlog of... What's our employment situation like? There is a bit of employment. What we could do is plonk down another Teamster's office. I think that would be a useful thing. That soaks up some unskilled labour. Plonk that one there. We're going to need to build a garage over here as well, actually, perhaps. That also might be quite a useful thing. Just because, actually, one of the reasons why we have a bunch of houses over here, although some of them have been deconstructed, I think as people have moved into nicer housing, there, it's kind of bumping people up the food chain, as it were. Is that... oh, that's the logging camp, okay. No, it was infrastructure and garage. Let's build that there, conveniently right next to the logging camp. Which is, you know, I've just knocked down a chunk of the trees that the logging camp relies on. I could build a horticulture station, which helps speed up the reforestation process, but yeah, that's not really going to be too much of an issue, and we'll make that a higher priority. So yeah, that also needs to be a higher priority, and I think with the financial aid we've been getting in, and we don't have a foreign office yet, do we? Or do we? No, I don't think I have built one. No, yes, I have. Okay. Oh, we're just going for neutral policies at the moment. This is kind of... I think I built this because some of the edicts are only available with... where are we? The Foreign Office. Yeah, we did that already, didn't we? I could spend a bit of money and get my relations up with the USSR because I feel like they could be higher at the moment. We also fulfilled a mission to export as well, so that also will have helped. 500 pineapples! I don't know if we're actually exporting pineapples at all, but a pineapple farm wouldn't be too hard to build. And I think pineapples are one of the ones that you can feed into a factory. Coffee, papaya, farm, pineapples. It's a pity the overlay doesn't tell you if any of the existing farms are in fact existing pineapple farms, but never mind. Let's just kind of plonk one down there, and that should be fine. And I think we turned that off for a bit to let that fishery recover. Normally just having one doesn't have that much of an effect, but it's hard to tell exactly what the exact catchment area is going to be. Oh, okay. A hurricane. Yeah, we're going to get some buildings knocked over, but that's fine. We have plenty of cash to patch things up again. Disasters aren't really that much of a problem unless you are already on the ropes, either financially or in terms of population. But unlike games like Banished, it's kind of hard to crash your population in this game. Yeah, we only lost one person, one damaged building. That's fine. And if it was damaged, then I think it means it gets just repaired over time. It's actually quite handy. Nothing was outright destroyed. Right, so there's that substation, and we can just basically, by throwing some money at it, increase housing quality. Really quite simply, and it's relatively, like, it's kind of, you know, doing this for a bunch of buildings, $1,000 a go is not that cheap, but in terms of the amount of power consumption, yeah. A single turbine with 40 megawatts will actually last you a reasonably long while, at least to start with. And we can also, in fact, put the garbage compactor upgrade on the garbage dump, which will make that more efficient overall as well. So that's not too bad. In fact, there might even be... No, there's no logging camp upgrade, but there might be a lumber mill upgrade for power. Production increased by 30%. Production increased by 25%, but the lumber consumes more raw materials. We don't really need either of those. Sometimes you get ones that improve working conditions. Those are quite nice. So, yeah, we definitely still got housing spaces. I mean, this might be people with incomes that don't actually allow them to... Yeah, unemployed people tend to live in shacks because they don't have any income. And so they can't necessarily afford to live somewhere better. But the other thing that we can do, and we'll do this first before I start building a cathedral, because it's also a fairly necessary thing. I mean, it's not... you can kind of get away without it for quite a long while, but you do get fires that will break out and burn down buildings. And if you don't have an actual fire station with some actual firemen to deal with it, then obviously that can be a bit of a problem. And again, this is one of those things with a an area of effect that doesn't really tell you the area of effect. It'd be nice if you could click on it and see the area of effect for power transmission, but no, it's like the Fisherman's Wharf, where you really can't see the area of effect, or the working area that it uses. So we've got the parking garage going, that's fine. That should actually have been... Hopefully this will have soaked up some of the... Yeah, there we go, the unemployment rate going down. If any of these... this requires a high school degree, so if any of the unemployed population have got a high school degree, we can hopefully have them filter in there. And we don't need to have all of these slots open. In fact, we can, I think, basically get the same effect from having a couple as versus having a lot. Yeah, so yeah, you get various effects. So yeah, we want the housing quality one, obviously, but you can also, if you're being a cheapskate, decrease the building upkeep of surrounding buildings. You want to basically put these in population dense areas to get the best effect, and it also then stacks up quite nicely. I mean, you've got 63 housing quality. That's going to jump up by, I think, is it 10? Yes. And even the tenement housing quality will jump up to much more acceptable levels, and that should help our overall housing quality happiness by a fair bit. So, okay, good. They're building the pineapple farm. That will also soak up some unemployment and obviously generate some exports. We want a cathedral, and we also maybe want a grade school at some point soon as well. Oh, and a weather station, having had that storm. But that requires... is it government? I can't remember where the weather station is lurking. It's somewhere. Welfare and economy. There we go. We'll build the cathedral first because the cathedral's the more expensive one. No, that's also welfare and economy. Well done. That's like almost half my cash at the moment, but I think it's worth the investment. Where do I want to put this? It doesn't have to be next to a road, but we can't... The port is kind of... Even though that looks like it's a nice big area, yeah, just the corner of the port is blocking that, because it's also a fairly big building. It doesn't have to particularly be close to the housing, so we'll just... I guess we'll see if we can fit it in somewhere. It's a little bit awkward, because you only get these 45-degree increments that you can rotate the buildings, and of course that doesn't always match the roads very well. So we'll tell you what, we'll put it there, and then we can like run a junction off that bit there. So cathedral, and we'll definitely limit the spaces for that to start with, because college educated workers are kind of rare and expensive at the moment. We might even have to hire somebody to come in. We'll do that. We'll hire in one fireman for the fire station, and we'll also think about building some more nice housing. And hopefully once we get that new fireman arriving, that will obviously increase our housing satisfaction quite nicely. What's the entertainment satisfaction like? 52%. Not terrible, but we might want to think about building something other than pubs and restaurants. I mean, now that we have power, we could in fact build a casino, for example. But that's a little on the expensive side. It's kind of a more touristy building, but it's... locals will visit it, but tourists can also visit stuff like that. 2 citizens became criminals. We might also want a police station, you know. One thing I did discover, and I think I was talking about this in an earlier episode, is how it seemed it was a bit random in terms of how you discover which citizens have become criminal exactly. But except no, that's not really random at all. You don't have to just click around and hope you find the ones that have the correct uniform on, as it were, because they always look how they're, they always fit whatever job they're in, essentially. They don't have individual faces. But no, you can actually click on job and criminals and you can see exactly who in fact is a criminal and send them to prison from there. I don't know if you can reform prisoners though. You can send them to prison for a while. You can even build where are we? You can build plantations, no, labour camps, there we go. And instead of having a prison, you have basically you get some kind of crops out of them that you can then hopefully sell for cash or feed into your industry. So I might do that instead of building an actual police station. We might also want to have some secret police at some point as well, because how else are you going to go around assassinating dissidents and undesirables? People who support Caption Guy, for example, thoroughly deserve to be thrown into secret prison. Well, having said that, there aren't actually secret prisons, just regular prisons. So, how are we doing? Did I build a police station yet? Yeah, crime is fine. Oh, there's a mission.
Presidente, I have never come before you with a more pressing matter.
Convert to the new fish farms.
Have become foul-tasting.
Destroy all fishermen's wharves. $5,000 in the Swiss bank account. Let's go for it, because I think fish farms might be yes, here we go. So this is one of the I think one of the DLC buildings, which just kind of points out. So what we can do is, once that's built, I mean, that one we can schedule for demolition anyway, because that's currently inactive. That's fine. I've only got 2 fishermen's wharves, so I mean, it's not like I really need the Swiss bank account money for this sandbox playthrough. That really only matters when you're doing the campaign. And even then, it's just scorekeeping at the end of the day. You can't actually spend your Swiss bank account money on anything. But it makes a more concrete, a kind of a nice, more concrete way of keeping score in this game than just some kind of abstract scorekeeping system like you see in a lot of games. Send them 7,000, sure. We'll do that, because sometimes you get a nice payback off that one. In terms of, well, you don't get the camel, but you might get more cash back than you actually pay to them to begin with. Although it would be kind of funny if there was like a rare chance of you actually getting a camel, and then you have a camel wandering around your island as a kind of Easter egg thing. This is taking a while. We can actually speed this up again. I do tend to spend a lot of the time playing this game just, on second or third speed. How are we doing for... There we go. Housing satisfaction. Housing quality's jumped up to almost 80. That's now over 50. So that might well have kicked in with housing quality 46. It was in the red before. So that's better than it was before. We still need some more like apartment blocks and the like. But yeah, if you stack the fire station with the air conditioning, then it could go up to pretty decent numbers. Right, that's going to be expensive, but we'll get in Bishop. We'll also we'll open up a slot there, because that will help export prices, and I think we'll build that weather station actually before we do the fish farms, because the weather station is going to... I mean, it ultimately saves a bit of cash, the weather station, as versus the expense of having to... What have we can kind of squeeze it in there somehow. I don't think I can. I think we can put 1 or 2 buildings in there, but none that actually require... let's just put it there. That's fine. None that require a road connection. As for some reason the weather station does. Any building that requires a road connection essentially has its own garage that workers can use to go to and fro from. Right. I wonder if it's worth building a horticulture station up there. It only affects certain crops. No, it is food and resources, isn't it? Well, it's kind of cheap to get that blueprint. I seem to remember it being papaya and maybe pineapple. I won't build it just now. I was hoping it would be in the tooltip, but it might be worth building one up there later on to give us a little cash boost. Right, we'll also demolish that one. And fish farms, which don't actually need... That's very high-tech, little kind of geodesic dome. Well, I had just a regular fishing pier here. You'd think I could fit one of the fish farm piers, but I want it reasonably close to a road, basically. I've got to say, being on an island where there are many fish farms in the various lochs, I think salmon, I don't know if there's any other kind here, but yeah, farmed salmon is a probably reasonably big part of the exports of the island, economically speaking. They're not nearly this fancy looking. They really aren't. It's just a bunch of nets out in the water with some pontoons, basically. And there might be like a low storage shed or whatever. But yeah, generally it's not very fancy. The most high-tech thing you see is the helicopters flying around at certain times of year, which is how they transport the what do you call the little, is it sprats, when they're just like tiny wee babby fish? I can't remember exactly, but that's how they do it, which is probably horrible for the environment, but well, it's not probably horrible, definitely horrible, but anyway. Have 2 fish farms, sure. We'll build another one where that other was, and they're not that expensive. I mean, they're a lot more expensive than the regular. Can I even build them anymore? No, it's completely replaced my fishing wharves with the new fish farm building. Right, it doesn't want to... Oh, there we go. We kind of just... I was very finicky about where I could place it exactly. We can have extra fish production. We can have... Oh, we'll boost the quality of nearby restaurants and gourmet restaurants. And it will generate extra money based on worker skills. So we can basically go for more or better quality to produce extra money. Let's go with the extra money. I mean, exporting extra will produce more anyway, but I don't think fish is really a big part of our... Or maybe I should have just gone with increased volume. There is a way of seeing exports. Trade, there we go. Export volume, top exports. Yeah, we're not exporting a lot of fish at all. By far our biggest money makers at the moment are coffee and sugar. What I'll do is I'll open up... Actually, no, I won't. We want... Again, we can close off one of these slots. We'll hopefully get someone here, but I think we might just need to hire somebody, which is going to be a little bit expensive, but it'll be worth it. And this is also one we can spend upgrades on, and you actually have to upgrade to predict the various disasters. So 5,000 to detect earthquakes, tsunamis 10,000 and 5 megawatts, and storms 7,500. So it's actually overall quite an expensive structure, but you kind of have to, like, there's no point in building that and then not having the upgrades, because the main reason you build this is to predict the disasters. You do have various options, as with a lot of buildings. You can either just have, you know, actual weather reports, or you can have them fudge the figures a little bit, and you can increase the tourism rating and get immigrants and do the opposite. You can discourage people from coming to the island by pretending it's always horrible weather. That actually got filled right away, so we might have another college-educated person come to the island that could go into that slot there. Those both have the same job quality, so they won't be preferentially going from one to the other. Right, economically, I think we're doing well enough, he says, having spent a bunch of cash, to maybe up the minimum wage a bit, because that's also, I think, one of the things that people were not super duper happy about was the average wages. No, average job quality, and wages directly tie into job quality. We're doing quite well on a couple of things, though. Food quality, crime, safety and environment. Respect. Well, I mean, the respect one is just, that's a given. That's just the McJedi name. It's just the sheer cachet of being ruled by a McJedi has made the populace, you know, very happy to be here. Yeah, that is one fancy-ass fish farm. I'm not entirely sure what the purpose of this kind of... I thought it might be like a glass dome, but it appears to be just a netting dome. But even so, I mean, if it's meant to keep the seabirds out, maybe? I don't know. That is a really weird looking fish farm, but whatever. I'm sure they looked at pictures of actual fish farms and went, nah, that's way too boring, and decided to do that instead. Right, so we're just waiting to export more stuff. Yeah, we've got a bunch of resources waiting for export. I think we took care of that. No, we did not take care of that lumber mill backlog. Why do we have no people working at the lumber mill? Oh, it wasn't even that. It was I'd closed the lumber mill, and I'm not entirely sure why. I can't remember why I did that now, but I did it for a reason, clearly. I just saw it wasn't being worked on, and the massive pile of resources, and assumed that just the resources weren't being taken away, but who knows? Anyway. So, is there anything else I want to do? I think I'm almost at the stage of wanting to wrap this episode up. There we go. Cash injection, and oh, another... What do they want? Goat cheese! Sure, why not? We can build a ranch. Ranches have like... they only need like 2 people working there. We don't have that much suitable terrain though. Squeeze it into the tree line here. And hope the goats don't eat all the crops, which you would think the goats would be wont to do, just wandering around the place. But yeah, we might also build a couple of country houses along here. Oh, I meant to do that. There are some shortcuts for some of these building types. Every so often I think I can use the WASD keys and go to press them, and as you can see, yeah, there's various different things. I can build a water treatment plant, except I'm not even sure where that is. Well, that's a DLC thing as well. Treat the water of Tropico for great justice! So that's basically another pollution reducing thing. Presumably an area of effect one, so we would want to build it near the main population centre. I think we'll finish this off with just another couple of apartment blocks, and maybe squeeze in a nice house there. I tend not to, like, one of the more interesting housing options is the conventillo, but I tend not to build those until I'm relatively flush with cash. We can squeeze some bunk houses in there, that's not a problem. Even things like bunk houses and shanties benefit from... Actually, we could delete those shanties. I think these are... Yeah, they're not quite close enough. So this is outside. Okay, so you can kind of just about see based on that. So they've got 35 housing quality. The one next door's got 25. So that's the kind of general radius of the it's quite a big area then, the fire station. It doesn't seem to scale with how many you actually have. I think that it's just the more you have, the quicker they'll respond to actual fires when those become a thing. Squeeze one in that gap, said the actress to the bishop. Yeah, I don't... Yeah, I'm real classy. I am. I'm just a real classy guy. Right. That should fill up reasonably soon. People will always try and move into more desirable housing. And yeah, there we go. Starting to fill up. So we should just be overall continuing to increase our housing quality. Yeah, over 50% at this point. And even these are better than shanties and shacks. So yeah, people will tend to want to move into those if it's better than where they are at the moment. A couple of country houses over there as well. So yeah, I think we'll pause things there. We got our cathedral built. We've done something about the housing problem. We've built some fancy ass fish farms. We've complained bitterly about the current state of US politics. We've made snide remarks about President Trump. I think that about covers it. I think that'll do for an episode. So hopefully you have enjoyed yourself, you've been entertained. If you have, you can do all the usual things down underneath the video. And of course, as always, stay tuned for more.